Janie is 6, and she has really curly hair. She's noticed that when she takes a bath and her hair gets wet, it looks longer. She thinks this is really cool. She believes that her hair literally grows when it gets wet and shrinks upon drying. She asks her mother one day if keeping her hair wet for longer will help it stay long when she dries. Her mother laughs and explains to a disappointed Janie that when curly hair gets wet, it straightens out and looks longer. Her hair doesn't actually grow when it's wet. Janie has trouble understanding this because she's at a stage of cognitive development where it's hard for her to imagine the same volume of a substance, in this case her hair, can be shaped very differently. Psychologist Jean Piaget did a lot of work to define these stages, developing his 4-stage model of cognitive development. As children move through these stages, they begin to think more and more like adults. The first stage, which lasts until the child is about 2 years old, 0 to 2, is called the sensory motor stage. Babies in this stage learn about the world through their senses. Cognitively, a baby's biggest sensoromotor development is a sense of object permanence. Have you ever wondered why young babies enjoy peekaboo so much? It's not that fun for adults because we know that when a person covers their face, they're still there. But young babies think that if they can't see something, it has disappeared. So when mom covers her face, the baby thinks she's gone, and when she reappears, she's returned. Once babies develop object permanence, at around 8 months, they recognize that their mother doesn't really go anywhere and aren't quite as interested in peekaboo. Piaget's second stage spans ages 2 to 7. He calls it the pre-operational stage. Piaget uses operational as a loose synonym for logic. Children in the pre-operational stage, therefore, are only in the initial stages of using language and applying abstract thought. They're still not very good at reasoning and going through tasks solely in their heads. Children in this stage are also very egocentric and are gradually learning that others think differently than they do. In experiments to test this, a psychologist will let a child watch him open an empty juice box, fill it with colorful ribbons, and then seal up the box. The psychologist asks what the child's mom will think is in the box. Children at the very early end of this stage, around 3 or 4, will say that their moms will know there are ribbons in the box. Only children who are in the later end of this stage will realize that since their mom hasn't seen the psychologist tamper with the juice box, their mom will still think it has juice in it. Piaget called his third stage, which he believed characterized children from 7 to 11 years old, the concrete operational. Children become more capable of thinking logically during these years. They acquire the cognitive skill that Piaget called conservation, which will eventually help Janie understand that her hair does not actually grow longer when it gets wet. Basically, conservation is the understanding that simply changing the outer form of something does not necessarily change its quantity. To use a more concrete example than Janie's hair, after children have acquired conservation, they come to understand that a taller, thinner glass can hold the same amount of water as a fatter, shorter one. So far we've discovered the sensoromotor and pre-operational and the concrete operational stages. Piaget's final stage, from 11 or 12 years and beyond, is called the formal operational stage. The major accomplishment acquired at this stage is abstract reasoning. Children and adults at this stage are able to think through problems scientifically, rather than by basic trial and error. They understand that things in the world aren't black and white, and think more about values and goals. They are able to reason through things that are not concrete. Piaget's stages of cognitive development have shaped the way in which we think about children's cognition, even though subsequent studies have shown that the path to adult thinking is often more complicated than Piaget suggested. Children can acquire new cognitive skills at different times.